And the theme for today is from vision to venture, driving entrepreneurial innovation. And if you look at this theme, it actually resonates well with what we think in here in the UniPod. And that is translating ideas into impact. So today, we would like to hear from people that had an idea and they moved that idea through several stages, fell, rose again, fell 7 times, 15 times, but managed to rise again and translated that idea into impact. Colleagues, today we have our guest of honor in Mr. Mpinganjira. He's a very busy guy, but to accept to come here and be with us, I think it's such a great honor, and I would like us maybe to spare some 10 seconds just to give him a very huge round of applause. What these two gentlemen will be presenting to us today. But at the same time, I would also want to ask you to be very open and to ask as many questions as you would like to. This is an opportunity. Most of you maybe just see Mr. Mpinganjira in the papers. Maybe you just see him on TV. Today he's here, live. Let's hit him with questions. Because there is something in him that he can pass on to us and he can preach to us. And that preaching, obviously, should bear fruit. Sijoncho? 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 Yeah. But also we do have Mr. Moses Yakobe with us today. Again, these are people that we have only met maybe virtually, but this time around, these guys are in here in person, so let's pay attention to what they are going to say. Let us make sure that we are able to ask them as many questions as we can, so that at the end of the day, this interaction should actually bear fruit. As MUBAS, we believe that entrepreneurial innovation is not just about starting businesses. No, it's actually more than that. We believe that it's about cultivating that mindset, that mindset that values creativity, that values resilience, that values problem solving. That's what we believe in. And that's why we strive to be an entrepreneurial university. As a university, we want to be a research intensive, but as well as an entrepreneurial university, and that's our belief. So through platforms like these ones, we want to make sure that we convey that message to each one of us, and we want to preach that message, and we aim to nurture that mindset amongst our students, amongst our researchers, and amongst our partners. So let me take this opportunity once again to thank you all for being here, to thank our guest of honor and our key speaker for accepting to join us in this important conversation. Your engagement, colleagues, will make this dialogue richer and more meaningful. Once again, welcome to the UniPod Talk Series. Welcome to MUBAS, and let us enjoy the series. I thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sakama. Another big round of applause. So allow me this time around to invite our guest of honor, William Mpinganjira, who as the head of research and innovation earlier mentioned is the group CEO for FTH Holdings. I know it's very tempting to think maybe he only got himself there maybe by or from a click of a finger. So just to give you a little background, Mr. Mpinganjira holds a bachelor's degree in finance and accounting from the UK, a master's degree in international business from France, and another master's degree in banking and finance from Wales, among his qualifications. But he also held a number of portfolios before he rose to the position of group CEO. He's also worked in London and other countries. Welcome me, or join me in welcoming Mr. Mpinganjira with a big round of applause.
Thank you for the wonderful introduction. And just want to check my audience. Are we all students here? Or some are not students? Who are not students? Okay, interesting. Good. All right, so Lorraine here has already been introduced as part of our marketing team, but she's here to do one job, to make sure I didn't disalakwisi. Ndiperekeza ndisakomedwe ndisayankhule pepera, and then she has a job of cleaning up tomorrow kuti abwana IFDH amati chakuti kumubasi. So yeah, when she sits in front, I'm reminded to mind my speech. But thank you once again, Dr. Tsakama and Francis and the team here for inviting me to have a chat with you on a topic that is very dear to my heart. This is the one topic I can go on and on and on about, because to me, it is the one thing that this country needs if we are to continue to grow and to thrive. And it's not something that is rocket science. That's how all the other countries that we see around have done it. So it's already been proven. It's not a new PhD idea and what have you. When you are doing things, they will tell you, oh, inductive, deductive, and what have you, things like those. Already proven. So I have 20 minutes according to the program. So I'll do my best to squeeze what I wanted to say in 20 minutes, and then we have a Q&A session later on during the program after Moses and his fireside chat. So we can also unpack whatever I've said or not said during that Q&A. So moving into the entrepreneurship talk, one of the things that I would say is very, very critical, and this is talking from my personal perspective. Feel free to challenge me. I'm not preaching. So feel free to challenge, and let's have a discussion about whatever I'm going to say. And then I can explain myself why I believe that, and maybe why something has worked or hasn't worked. But the one thing that I think anyone, any entrepreneur, any business needs to have before you even begin is you must have an idea of where you're going. If you don't know where you're going, then what are you trying to achieve? So in any business, whatever you try to do, even at church, you have an idea of where you're going. If you're at church, you want to get to heaven. You believe that heaven is better than hell, right? That is a belief, and that's a vision. If we're talking a business, it must be a vision for you, for the business, or whatever it might be. And that's an underlying principle. That's what guides everything into basically trying to achieve what you want. If we look at FDH, and I'll talk about FDH and others because that's what I've been involved in. If you look at FDH, the vision that was set out was to be a leading provider of first-class financial solutions in Malawi and in Africa, Southern Africa specifically. Not just Africa, but Southern Africa. That's that's the vision for FDH. This was set out when the business started in 2002. Today, it's 2025. The bit about Malawi has been ongoing for some time, and FDH has grown from whatever position it was, position 10, 11. At that time, there were quite a few banks compared to what is available now, to position 3 behind National Bank, Standard Bank. The Africa part has only happened this year. But whatever FDH we were doing, working towards, we knew that this is something that we want to do. Now, when I say it has happened this year, it doesn't mean that we've achieved our target, but the beginning of the Africa part of the vision, it's this year. So this year, FDH has opened a business, a bank in Mozambique, which will be called FDH Mozambique, and started operations there. And a bit less well known is also that FDH also has been granted their license, FDH Money Bureau, not the bank, the bureau business in Zambia this year as well, and will start operations in Zambia as well. So 2 countries this year, but it's taken time. However, when you have the vision, you've got something to look towards, to point towards, and that's something that is important when you look at your business and you're planning to grow. I'll give you an example of part of a vision of a company that most of us know, and probably at some point we have used their products. If we haven't, we probably will aspire to use their product in the future, and that's Apple, the makers of iPhone, iMac, and most of this media equipment, some of the software, if you talk to these guys, they'll tell you they want to use Apple software because it's amongst the best when it comes to editing and stuff like that. And Apple, part of their vision says, make the best products on earth. That's it. Make the best products on earth. That's part of their vision. They've created something that people think should be the best, and they price it at a premium, and we believe it, that it is the best. When you ask guys who are engineers, or tell you no, Apple is no better than an Android, But if you compare a price of an Android product compared to an Apple product, one is priced at a premium. That's their vision, and they've managed to achieve it. So this is something that is very, very critical for anyone looking to start a business. Muzikhamu kuzuwa mufuna kulowera kuti osangoyamba kuzuka lero basi ndifuna business ya nkhuku, ndifuna kuweta nkhuku ka mazira, okay, nde mutani afterwards. I'm giving you that example because that's one of the businesses that I've done in the past and failed miserably. But one of the things that when you want to start a business, you must be able to answer the question of why should they choose me over that one, or you, or someone else? Why? What is it? What gap are you trying to address? Why should they go to, let's say, Ekaya and not Chipiku or ShopRite or Sana? Why? This is a question that you must be able to address. Moses here is an architect. If you want to construct this beautiful structure here, why should you go to Moses and Pakwathu and not another firm? And that's what you should be aiming for. Answer that question, see the gaps that are there, and there are plenty of gaps. There are plenty of gaps. Every day, when you look at how you do things, there are plenty of gaps, and that's what you should be trying to address. And the gap is not about a new product only, it's about the process, just refining what exists already. So for example, when I gave the example of Apple, mobile phones, we had Nokia, very dominant, Motorola, very dominant. All these were already existing in the market. But Samsung and Apple, iPhone came, same product, refined it and took over the market. They identified a gap. For Apple, the gap was turning a phone into a media device. And that was it. They fused what they called the iPod then, which was basically a Walkman. And homo Walkman. My student. Kunali Walkman not a CD player, Walkman, cassette, and fused it into a phone, into a communication device, into one. So that's a gap that they addressed. So why should they go for your product? Answer that question and you are on your way. And it's not an easy question, obviously, to answer. One of the things that you need to look at when you're doing some of these things is look at the government policy. What is government saying they want to focus on and invest in? It's very, very important. Now, of course, when you look at government policy, masanka, but my policy says now ndongo pangira kuti ndufuna ndiwine mavoti mao. Whether they akawina vote yo, everyone forgets about it. For those of you who are older here, there was a policy in Buyomo and it was a policy. But so, point is, also you have to be selective when you're looking at the policy. There will be some serious things in policy, like today there was a speech by the new president. He's given a statement at parliament. You look at that and then you see what is it that they're saying they're focusing. Why is it important? It's important for the government controls the environment. It means they will put in place rules and regulations that will help attract investment in that area. That is why it's important to also look at policy of what your country is doing, and or whichever country that you want to operate in, other than looking at areas that you want to focus on. Then by my business, you simply, people cannot live without. Food, for example, no matter what happens, everyone needs to eat. As long as that something is alive, human beings, animals, they need to eat. That's always a good area of business to move into, because no one can survive without food. So look into some of these areas to help you as you come up with ideas. Now, entrepreneurship, just a simple definition on Google. I know you're all students, you're supposed to look at peer-reviewed articles and things like that when you're doing your research and what have you. I use Google at all because I can, basically. I'm not being marked here. Obviously, you shouldn't do that. You should follow what the university says when it comes to direction on research and use, verifiable references and what have you. If you go on Google, you type entrepreneurship, what does it mean? So it's a process of creating, developing, and managing a new venture with the aim of generating profits or creating value. Very, very important, especially the value part. Profit or creating value. So what does that mean? It doesn't say profit and, because you can be a social entrepreneur as well, and you're not necessarily aiming for profit, but there's value that you're creating for whatever community that you're working with. So that's also being an entrepreneur, but a social entrepreneur. Then you can be a business entrepreneur, where now your focus can also be profit, or you can do both if you make enough money. But the part is the value part. Very, very important. Why? Because certain businesses simply will not create value. So, palima business eno kuti umabanga komanoma wa igwa. Why? Maybe it was simply aligned to a specific government. It was aligned to a specific individual. So for example, MUBAS here, you could have someone who's the head of procurement. And business yako, njongoda umabanga supply ma computer. Okay? You grew up with this person, he's got a job here, he's now the head of supply chain, procurement, and what have you. And then you get into this business. When itimabanga sama computer, dalo one business imini. Mwailoa, banga supply my computer. Then this guy moves on. Then you can't supply computers anymore. Why? Maybe your computers were not good enough, or it was dependent on the person. Then the business is dead. That's not entrepreneurship. That's not the kind of entrepreneurship that will create the value of the definition that I was talking about. That type of business needs a lot of thinking, needs a lot of planning. And it's a business yogudi malemba antwena nchito and wajaso amataso kutukukaso naoso. The business yanyu omweja iwaja ndukumajoka ndukumagapanga zina inosa abangira nsanje. Osati mwamuona ata afuna ndibere business. Because there's enough to share for everyone. And that's what entrepreneurship is about. You celebrate when some of the people who worked with you or for you go out and do their own thing. That's the type of business that you should be thinking about. When you look at market capitalization, let me ask, what does market capitalization mean for the students here? Simple hand up. When I say market capitalization, what does that mean to you think? For the students here. Yes, sir. Yes. What's your name? Brett. Okay, the man behind the camera. So for those of you who are watching online, you will not see him, maybe. But yeah, to put it simply, market capitalization is a simple mathematical equation. Share price yangu ndi bwanji 10 kwacha. How many shares do you have? 100. 100 times 10. That's your market capitalization. Very simple. So when you look at the Malawi Stock Exchange, for those of you who might be interested in looking at share prices and that, you will see a line that says market capitalization, and it will say, oh, this company is worth maybe 4 billion kwacha. This company is worth 1 trillion kwacha. That's what market capitalization is all about. So to give you a simple example, in the US, the largest economy in the world, the market capitalization for all the listed entities is 67.8 trillion US dollars. 67.8 trillion US dollars. I don't even know how many zeros that is. Don't even try to convert it to Malawi kwacha fuwa palibe chomwe calculator ingakwanisa kuyika mazero onsewo into Malawi kwacha. Okay? But here's the thing. The top 10 companies listed in the USA, on all the stock exchanges in the USA, account for almost 40% of this 68 trillion US dollars. And all of those top 10 were started by entrepreneurs. I'm sure you can name them, some of them. You use their products every day. Just give me one or two names. What do you think? Shout out something. Eh? What was that? Alphabet. Alphabet is what? Google, right? It's in the top 10. Yina Apple. It's in the top 10. Yina? Nvidia. Facebook. Individuals. And these individuals control 40%. That's what entrepreneurship is all about. The business young huku ijayo kuti izafika mebaba. I'm not saying don't do it, I'm just saying be more ambitious. Okay? But it's not easy, obviously. Obviously, it's not easy. You need to be very marketable. You need to have a product you can go and sell to investors. They should invest in your business. And that's the hardest part. Now, why is it very difficult? This is probably one of the most difficult things you can ever do, is because as a country, it's not really set up to support new businesses. And that's the sad part. And now this is something that all of us need to understand. And this is not a Malawi issue, it's a worldwide issue. It doesn't matter which country you go to. My retail banks, when I say retail banks, my bank wakuti ngati FDH jani ndena wasinga chule nawe. Mama bank na maona ntawni. Ndima branch au museo. They are not really set up to fund new businesses. My bank ambili in every country, they want to work with business yoguti inambagale. And it's got some sort of cash flow, janika profile galipo, agafunsao yuka reference, they can say guti dukuiziwa. Okay? Most of you mugamabanga apply for academic qualifications, for example, Maka reference it, maybe a professor that taught you and things like that. It's the same in business. The reference is very, very important. So that is why you have that challenge. What is it that they have in those countries that Malawi needs to work on to help entrepreneurs and businesses and new ideas that can be created, for example, in these labs, within these walls? You have things like equity financing or amateur venture capital. And this is something where people will now say, you go and market the idea, and they'll say, okay, I like your idea. I can put money in that business. Come on, say shareholding. Have we seen that before? Have we heard of this show, Dragon's Den? Yeah? You've heard of that? And some of you have. If you haven't, go Google it. It's basically that concept. There will be people who have access to this finance because you a number business or anali for a long time. So they've built that credibility. The banks will be willing to give them money because the bank doesn't want to take necessary risk on the new business. I know they'll be willing to give money to these other individuals or businesses who are already established, and these ones will now take the risk. But their risk is investing in your business. You must be willing to give up your equity. Then got the business waiyamba mujaka and the yankukweja, you own 100%. You say, Uda, Mugandiba saga 5 million, I'll give you, let's say, 20% of the business. That's something that we as a country will obviously need to work on. And we can talk about it more in the Q&A. And normally they will exit through a listing or mwinaza kugulisa sweweyo nthawi inoza ka 5 years later 10 years wapanga ndrama kuzalira nibwenzereni ujeni yanga ichi stake yanga ichi. You can buy it back, but you would have created the value at the time. Maybe when they bought it munavanga value at 5 kwacha ukamaza igulisa, maybe the share is now at 15 kwacha. It's not listed yet within NOC, and they buy it back and they'll be happy to exit. Company, they just want to create value. Because they make the money, they are able to go pay off that loan at the bank. So that's something that as a country also, we definitely look into it. And moving on quickly, you know, when all these things, execution is important. How do you go about it? Doing some of these things. There are certain principles you just need to follow. Simple things like managing your time. Time management is important. If you ask Pakwathu, one of the things that they have to do is manage time. If they say a project will take 12 months, it must take 12 months. If it takes 18 months, there'll be cost overruns. And the client will be unhappy. Time management is important. If you can't manage your time, you will struggle to run a business properly because there's so many things you need to do. So you need to be very, very careful about some of these things. Success rate, Yama startups, 10% only. 10% will succeed, 90% will fail. And this is a worldwide statistic. The success rate for a repeat failure moves up to 20%. So you double your odds. What does this mean? You might fail the first time, but if you try the second or third time, the probability of succeeding doubles. So you will find Buddha and Hambili, they would have failed at some point. So, for example, before I was part of FDH, I tried a few businesses as well. My first business idea was Gudi school. In the interim, I was in the UK. I thought because of my and drama and supply computers to Malawi. And I did, and it failed miserably. Because I wasn't feeling any gap. Anyone can do it. Anyone can do it. There was no gap I was feeling. Then you've got MRA, Oko, Chani, and what have you. Complete failure. My wife and I, we tried a chicken business. So when I talk about chickens, I'm talking from experience. Chicken business. That was our first venture. Which failed. Why? One of the key components of chicken is feed. Feed inangukwera ntengo. Became unmanageable. Ugakule feed uzipase nkuku zikule within the 6 to 8 weeks and sell it to the market. It became too expensive. Was not in control of the key resource for the chickens, feed. Then gaduma do ubanga nkuku goma su banga feed yako, you will fail. Because you are only allowed to succeed up to the point of the one who controls the feed. Then if you start becoming successful, they will just kill you off. Akozongo kwezera mitingo. Tinaisapo za chimanga, soya. Complete disaster. Not filling any gaps, not understand. One of the reasons, not understanding the business either. Not understanding how much it costs. How do you price? From production to the shelf. How much does it cost? Not understanding the basics. You need to know how much it costs you to run your business. And hambiro abanga business banoba, including ena munomo. ndrama yomwe mmalandira kuti salale ikulowa komweko, ya business ikulowa komweko, yolipirira madzi ku nyumba ikulowa komweko, yolipirira mafuta ikulowa kutuluka komweko. You are mixing everything in one. How do you know what is your cost of the business and what is the cost of just living your life? Simple things. Separate the accounts. Just manage simple. It's very unnecessary. We think it makes our life easier, but it doesn't. Tikabangisa airdomane ka mpamba ya nambala yathu ya person. Koma muzintumizira zinthu za business. How do you know how much it's costing you to run a business? Very simple stuff that you need to do. Then there are things that, compliance, Malawi Revenue Authority, agenda amathoteka business. They have sweeping powers. If you hit MRI, then you're in trouble. They'll come, lock your company up, take up a komobo, no se ukutegerani banje. They have those powers. Simple things like that. Make sure you comply. And the leadership aspect is very, very critical. And I think I need to be concluding now. The leadership aspect is very critical because as you create a business, TNTSA so the bank create business yoguti mawai kalapo, even if you are not there. Whether you decide to move on to another business, you sell it, kaya muntu wa mwalira, koma isabite ndi muntu hanadani, anayambisa. It must continue. And that is very, very important. That's what entrepreneurship is about. That's why I'm saying certain businesses, you cannot call them entrepreneurs. Because if they cannot answer the question of what in business is mawa, inga karepo be, amatia ichichose ni mabanga ndeka, ninga ni mabanga no kachichose. Mawa, kaya mwana wanu, kaya kazanu, kaya mufuna kungulisa muntu, azaipanga bwanji business. If all the information is in your head, that's not the type of business you want to get involved in. Do a business, you happily share information because you know I've got a good business and it will continue to run. Work experience, very critical. Work experience, education, very, very critical. Want to jump into these things. You've never experienced any sort of work, governance, you've got a bright idea, ufuna yambe business. Uziendesa bwanji. So don't be in a rush. Don't be in a rush. There's this myth, dropouts, this one dropped out, Steve Jobs dropped out of this. Then, Fusunjo, Kodaga Maj University, Anabanga drop out put. How can university? Oh, you went there soon after you can do university. You were not even good enough to get there. Not because Mwina and Dramas na vuta. That's a different story. No Mazafusa. Which universities did they drop out of? Then you find out it's the top universities in the world. Do you know what that tells you? They had the education. They had the ideas, but why did they drop out? My innovation hub, they link up with the Dr. Tsakamas and they create a business. They have these experienced people behind them. So don't be fooled that you can drop out with your 35 points. If you do, make sure you go back at some point. Kapunzire, it's important. Learn the basics. Zimatandiza, school ndio funika. Ndetsa mana mizane boya. Finally, scaling up. Scaling up, I talked about attracting investors. Scaling up is now the point where you can say, okay, Mwina Dimabanga manufacture, let's say 10,000 bottles a day. I want to scale up ndizipanga manufacture 100,000 water bottles. Fwacho kuti uli ndi ka record kajako ka 10,000 bottles a day, ukhoza nokupita nokubanki. Because ati ndofuna ndi plan iyi, ndofuna ndipange scale up ndizipanga 100,000, ndofuna ndigule machine, kachani, whatever it's needed. And that is also very important. Then you can go and borrow. And the best business model for scaling up is use someone else's money. That's the best business model. Don't touch your money. If you get to a point where you can use someone else's money, do it. Yako asungire akazako, amunako, anako, antukumuzi. But if someone is willing to give you money to run a business, do it. Because that's the best way of doing things. Zinazono, they can use it for someone else, something else. Kamuka gulira nyumba no yaniyokhala, kamuka gula mashare, kamuka gula mkamanga nyumba ina kuti azikhala pa renti. Now that's your money. Zinazono zigwise ni ntchito business. And we can always talk about how people do that. But to close, what I can say is, Gutin, for any country to succeed, you cannot do it without entrepreneurs. And if anyone here sits and thinks the government is the solution, is the answer, no. Then ingatiso makao manati mugalo wa kumwamba mukunama. The answer lies with you, not with someone else. The answer lies with you, not with someone else. Someone else is not going to do all this on your behalf. What government does and can do, a good government, is to create the environment, create the right policies that enables entrepreneurs and business people to thrive. If government's main income dijani, misonko emajogera kwandani. Kwa inundineo. My business ambiro mwema amabanga abomanda business. You know what they do? They waive tax. So they don't even pay jute, chanchani, ndizina zoteros. It's tax free. Meaning kuti bomalija is not earning anything. Obviously, nangasa business ndiao, why should they charge themselves? But when we do business, we pay tax. And that's what will build this thing. Because MUBAS, for example, gets funding from government. Where does it come from? It's taxpayer money. It's not just about grants. Even to attract a grant, you must have a product or a service that mundu grant you must say, yes, this is something that we should provide a grant for. For those of you who've done research, you are researchers, you will know that getting a grant is not a joke. Applying to get a grant, it's not a joke. So government's job is to create that conducive environment where now, inuyono, you can thrive. And that's why it's important to understand what is government doing, my policies are on the jan, because then you can partner with government and do things that will help you to grow as entrepreneurs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Another big round of applause befitting the Group CEO. Wonderful insights, great ideas. I guess we've all learned quite a lot. Those online, those in the audience, thank you very much once again. As the head of Research and Innovation said, we understand your busy schedule, but we know you have that kind of love to share what you have, especially with the younger generation who are the future leaders. Now, allow me to invite Mr. Moses Yakobe, who is the founder and also managing director for Pakwathu Concepts. They are specialists in architecture, interior designing, engineering, urban planning, and many other things within the architectural industry. A big hand for Mr. Yakobe.
So mwina tukudigiri I can take over the stage. Kwakina kondia mbopanga manyaze. I'm glad kuti bwana wapereka example ya nkhuku. I think anthu ambiri timakonda kudya nkhuku. Ndekuti from now on, every time I have a chicken, I'll remember him as one of the occasions where he had the upside of failure. I think it's very important to remember that in life, you don't succeed every time. You try and try again. Sometimes tima gonja nsanga, right? Anyamata muli muno palamana fusira kwa mkazi. Basing it from that experience, that's the same effort you apply to your investment ideas. Lero uyesera ulephera. Lina umakandigirira 5 koloko mama wafika kale pa gate. Yeah, akusamba you will pa gate. It means you're ready to try again. So don't give up. And I think another exciting insight that William has shared, I think Antambira Business, I've enjoyed the session because he was hitting one high note to the next in terms of how business works. But one critical thing that everybody must remember, Antambira Kalandi idea, Timatamangira Kubanki, and I'm glad that he has talked about having possibly a think tank that looks at funding ideas. In South Africa, I think NB Bank has a department within them that is called, I think it's a deal maker type environment. The idea behind it is if you have a crazy idea, you go to these people, they'll polish it, workshop it with you, and if they think it's value for money, then you've got the venture capitalist coming in to give you a portion of what you want as seed capital. So I think the banks in Malawi should also open up to those ideas. I think that's a very important point to raise. Can you please give him a hand for that? Adding on to that, I also wanted to highlight the fact that as you're starting your business, you need to create a track record. I think he touched on that. If you do not have social capital, if you do not build a reputation for yourself, if you do not build credibility, the banks will not touch you. So here's the secret. When you have money, go and borrow money from the bank. Because the banks are not going to touch you when you do not have money. So what we normally do is when we are broke, that is when we want to go to FTH to get a loan. Trust you me, he can deny it if I'm wrong, they'll not give you the money. The bank is happy to give you money when you already have money. So he has told you the secret. If you can do something using somebody else's money, that's the way to go about it. The reason why I'm saying create a social capital, create a track record, build a relationship with your bankers. I hope Lorraine mabweletsa mafomu kuti anawatsegule ma account lero, because from that point of departure, the bank is going to grow with you, they'll trust you, they'll see you through the ups and downs of business, and once you've got that kind of partnership, you find that funding will become easier as you expand. I think I'm ready for the firing squad. Thank you.
All right, a big hand for Mr. Yakobe. No, welcome, you can take a seat. Yeah, I guess first things first, I did mention to the audience that you are the founder and managing director for Pakwathu Concept. I know I'm interested, the audience should be interested. First of all, when was Pakwathu Concepts established?
All right, so I'll go back in time slightly. So I studied here. We did not have an innovation hub. I think I could have been brighter if this was built in our time. After studying here, I went to South Africa where I did the postgraduate studies. And then ndinaona fees imene makolo anga nalipira imandiwawa. I thought before coming back to Malawi, nditolere fees yanga ndinayamba ntchito kumene kuja. Kuti fees ija nzitolera pang'ono pang'ono ndibwere nayo kwathu. Long story short, in 2012, I had a business partner in South Africa. We started a firm called Ceciro Design Group. And the idea was to expand into the Southern Africa region and possibly expand into the future. So one admirable trait that I saw in South Africa, which I must commend FTH, I think William shared that they are now in Mozambique, they are now in Zambia, is the passion or the drive for South African entrepreneurs to start a business in South Africa and expand across the world. I think that's a very commendable thing to do. So when I looked at that, I thought, you know what? Why don't we borrow a few ideas, learning from the experience I had in South Africa? Koma chachikulu chimene chimandiwawa kuti kumalawi kuno ndi kwathu. So the name Pakwathu comes from understanding that if I don't do it, nobody else will. So timapanga ma design in South Africa kuja possibly making good money koma si kwathu. And South Africans are people that every excuse they get to remind you that you're a foreigner, they'll remind you that you're a foreigner. So I thought, ineyo ndi kwathu. Then at the same time, ndimaona ma mannerisms athu ngati Malawi, timayendetsa BMW, koma timataya zanthu ochimunsewu. You drive a nice Ford Everest, you're comfortable throwing a bottle in the street, as if kuti dziko limunabwereka, eni aka azabwera kuzatenga, and you don't care what happens with the country. At the same time, let me tap on what William said again, trying to create something that outlives you. So we called it Pakwathu, or I called it Pakwathu, because sinimafuna ikale Moses and Partners, or Yakobe and Sons, because eventually ndikadzafa, there will be a new partner, adzafuna naiso aichule kuti Christopher and Sons. So I thought Pakwathu is neutral enough, it should be able to be embraced by anybody else and taken into the future. So what motivated me the most is South Africa kuli probably about 9,000 registered architects, rounded to the nearest. I accidentally attended a briefing here in Malawi. Kunali ma-architect awiri. On average, ndikapita briefing ku South Africa timakhalako ma-architects 1,000 ntchito imodzi. Then ndabwera ku Malawi ndikupeza kuti mafema abwerawo ndi awiri. I was like, no way. 1 out of 2. I should do something about this. So that is when I started deciding to come back to Malawi and establish a firm called Pakwathu. But the big idea is understanding that this is home, Panobandi Pakwathu. And the only thing I could think of at that point was to make my own contribution towards Kwathu kuno. For dzikoli limodzi lokha ngati nesi ndipanga palibe wina amene apange. So including my entire team, Kofesi konda Sialani, kuli Fatani, kuli Latanze, kuli Joseph, kuli Tipe, kuli Ethel, and many more. I'm trying to teach them the ethos to understand that whatever we do, Panobandi Pakwathu. So there's nothing else other than appreciating that this is home, and whatever we design and put out there should give everybody that impression that we are thinking Pakwathu and nothing but Pakwathu. Thank you.
What are some of the challenges that you recall encountering when you were starting off?
So in terms of challenges, again, William touched on that, and I think he spoke quite well, making my life very, very easy. So I call it the things they don't teach you in class. Most of us are made sciences, engineering, maybe except those in business. You come out of your university with a degree and you're thinking, I'm going to start my own firm. As you mentioned, kule MRA, you've never had any exposure with MRA other than knowing that pamakala vati parisiti nage ugalandira, but you do not know how to go about taxation. You basically are fresh behind or green behind the ears. So business imapangarani branch. You don't even know the difference between capital and profit. Kulantambiri kuna woti matiti mapanga gain it. So gain ija menanela mujoru kanda account imo sio sichimalo mutimo mene momo. Nde watengateni kwacha wakagula nthochi wagulitsa 20 kwacha koma transport yoti ukagulitsire yakupanga cost 8 kwacha and unagula madzi a 2 kwacha ukaphatikiza siyarusa 20 kwacha ukaphatikiza yodi ya 10 kwacha transport 8 kwacha unamwa madzi a 2 kwacha ya balance it. So timakhanda understanding yokuti as long as ndinayika 10 kwacha ndapanga 20 kwacha ndapanga profit, but that's not the correct understanding. For pakati pali cost of sales imene imakhala yobisika. So one challenge is legislative requirements. Kuli kupanga register company kumene kusankha kuti company ikhala limited liability kapena ai, and having that understanding. So other than that, you also get your market peers. You have to compete with other people. Again, William said, I think I'll just summarize it as unique selling point. And yet there are several other firms on the market. So you have to get that understanding to say, I'm going to compete with other people, and that's a challenge on its own. How do you then set yourself apart? Then could also, you having the skill, sitting in your bedroom with it, and somebody wanting your services, kwina kwake gabu iyi uyibanga bridge bwanji kuti munthu adziwe kuti kuli Moses atondipangira design nyumba. Then there's the service itself. What kind of service are you providing? So as part of the challenges, I think we also looked at how do we set ourselves apart? And one of the key things that we do is, yes, there are jobs we apply for because as bank advertise, Zambiri, as our name suggests, concepts, we create concepts, we show off our skill. And in so doing, people get to appreciate what we do, and we get work through that. Sometimes we even go as far as identify a piece of land that's possibly for sale, work on a concept, then start knocking on doors, asking people if they're interested to develop. We would not be sure or certain that we'll get a client through that, but in so doing, people get to know what we do and what we're capable of. I think in summary, that's what I can share.
I personally admire the background of Pakwathu, and I believe there's a lot that you can share with the audience online, the audience in this room, pertaining to the role of vision in actually entrepreneurship. Why is it important that people should have a vision, regardless of when they begin to have that vision? We've got students in this room, some in first year, second year, third year, fourth year, fifth year. Maybe some are waiting to complete the education before they actually begin to have some visions. What is the importance or the role of vision in entrepreneurship, and when should somebody actually begin to have visions?
So when I was a student, we had opportunities to interact with other market leaders or business leaders of that time. And I used to complain that they always bring us someone who I defined as has reached their cruising altitude, meaning anayamba business inaenda inagwira nseo. I think it's also important to interact with people who are starting off, who are actually facing those challenges, and have them share their journey at that point. Because what happens is, say the guest of honor has arrived here in a very posh car. When you project yourself driving that car, but you don't know that he had a chicken business that failed in between before he got that car. So the power of vision is sense of direction. Tikamapanga design, timaina kuti there's one true north, yeah? And your true north will never change. And north is always up. So the student amene waonetsa north idanga navasi automatic fail because north is always up. Your vision is your true north. And the idea behind it is to make sure that when you've conceptualized that idea and this is the business I'm going to do it, first and foremost, do research. Who else is doing it? Takambagala is a unique selling point. Identify how you do it differently. And then what gap are you going to fill? So ngati pali kala anthu 10 akugulitsa mandasi, iwo amakayima panseu. You could say ine ndizigulitsa mandasi, ndizikiratu mmapakete, ndizikapereka mmarumu ama students. So what you're trying to do is to fill the gap yokuti munthu amatuluka mrumu kukafika panseu kuti agule mandasi. And that becomes your unique selling point. Because then aliyense amene amanjoya service ali nakuti ine ndimangokhala murumu amandibweresera mandasi. So it's trying to structure your vision and trying to see how best you can provide a service, add value for someone to be able to appreciate and say, ndimagula kwa uyu and not uyu. Koma dreaming is free. Don't limit yourself. Mu Bible, I think Matthew 25:14-30, mulinkhani ya the rich bwana who went away, anapatsa anthu ake atatu chuma kuti apange invest. Awiri anapanga double zimene anapatsa, mmodzi anakakwirira pa asset. That is what we are as talented people. Because timazi mphaso zimene atipasa zosiyanasiyana timazikwirira pasi, we do not exploit them, and we sit back and think bwezine ndikupanga chakuti koma sukuyesera ndi komwe. So that vision is going to help you nurture that talent or that thinking capability for you to bring out the best that you can ever be. Thanks.
All right, now finally, there are a lot of questions that I would have loved to ask you, but I know the audience also online, audience in this room, has a number of questions. So before we, I also invite Mr. William Mpinganjira on the podium. I'd like to ask you one last question. What is unique about architecture as an art, as a science, as a profession, in terms of finding opportunities, entrepreneurship opportunities actually? What would be your advice to the young people following online, young people in this room, as as a profession, as an art, as a science, what opportunities are there for entrepreneurship?
So my wife Judith is always my sounding board, and most of the times when I work, I design, I'll sit back, I'll show her, she'll greet me. Now she's become a glorified architect with very strong opinions. At the end of the day, the art of creating something from nothing, I think, is what is most rewarding in my experience being an architect. And to see that become a structure that is completed is even more rewarding and more exciting. In terms of business opportunities, I think William already said that there's nothing new under the sun. Whatever we are doing or everybody else is trying to do, somebody has already done it. But the best question to ask yourself is, how will you do it differently? And what gap are you trying to fill in? Because once those two are aligned, then you enjoy whatever you do. In terms of business opportunities as an architect, like I said, South Africa has what, about 9,000 registered architects. Malawi is sitting at about 41 or 42 against a population of 20 million. So we still need more creative minds. We still need more architects. I do not think there is a level of saturation. But I would also warn the youngsters, especially those in the architectural fields, against launching too quickly. You find that once somebody has a degree, maybe they have a dream to open a firm, they are not yet at the top of the food chain in their field. They have not given themselves time to learn the trade, to learn the art. Yet they want to start their own firm, they want to start their own business. And I can guarantee you, majority of the guys practicing in town are not your competition. You are very far below. Because, for example, if there's a bid today and the briefing is in Karonga, you will probably not have money for fuel. You probably maybe don't even have a car. You have no money for food or accommodation. Whereas those guys that are already in business, they're able to do their business development easily because they're well resourced. But the way to go about it is first learn and choose to learn carefully, because you can also learn the wrong things. Then from there, you can then decide whether you're sticking around in the firm that's there or you're going to go to another firm. Other than that, there is no limitation. Don't limit yourself. Musarenge chuma chanu kachikumbira basi. Find a way of multiplying the talents that you have or the skills or the trades that you're picking up while you're in uni. Thank you.
Another big round of applause from Mr. Yakobe. Before I invite the guest of honor, I'd like to take 4 questions, 2 from ladies, 2 from a gentleman. Where's our mic? Our roving mic, 2 quick questions. You have a question? Okay. I hope the question is going to him, not me. I'm not answering any questions.
Yeah, thanks so much, Best. My name is George Sinjani. I'm a staff at MUBAS. I have to thank the guest of honor and also the guest speaker. We always admire to hear from you, people who are already standing in entrepreneurship. You gave good examples. So my first question, I think, can go to guest of honor as well as the guest speaker. If they have time, they can both respond. When you are doing...
Your first question is going to the guest of honor?
To both.
Oh, to both. So he'll take it when he come on stage, because he'll also come on stage and he'll be time, yes.
Okay. Good. So they hinted on the, I can call it money management. You start a business and the money comes into personal account. And the end result, as I heard, is not good always. I want to give examples as Malawians. We had the gurus in business that we are looking up to when we were growing up. We had, I think I'm not going to offend anyone. We had Chitawila Supermarket, Mr. Pekan there, and then we had Mike's Trading. And now they don't exist. And sometimes when you hear their stories, it was about money management. So I want to ask these 2 gentlemen, what can you advise for upcoming business people not to fall into the same pit? And also, how are you managing, maybe we can learn from you, your funds or money to make sure your business is growing? My next question maybe can go to the guest speaker, Mr. Yakobe. I'm just looking at the Pakwathu concepts. There's architecture, interior design, project management, urban planning, engineering. This diversification, where does it come? I don't know. Did you start with all these, or how does it come to say you can start providing all these services? Is it after each step? How does it how does it start? Now I'm looking at the time that you have. Do you people sleep? When you look at all these, and the guest of honor was talking about opening branches in Mozambique, something in Zambia. Let me ask a personal question to say, how do you spend your time? Because the example you gave about the chickens, just to keep 20 chickens and the twister goes off, you need you look for petrol. Then Jen said, you don't have petrol. You have sleepless nights, but you have all these. How do you manage your day, for example? Thank you.
How would you like to proceed? You want to take that question or you want to? All right.
So maybe let me start with money one. So I have a personal account, I have a business account. If my personal account doesn't have money, I don't get money from the business Mandas. So you need to respect the two. Because Zmeli Mabanga, as he has said, zosi zigulowa mmodzi ndagati sobo water you're getting from the same pool mugagula, yet you need to separate the two. So you give yourself a salary and you respect your salary, and whatever belongs to Caesar you give to Caesar. That's the summative answer I can give for that. So separate your interest in terms of how you manage your money. Moving on to what Pakwathu does. So part of business growth is understanding the market in which you're operating. And I am of the view that Malawi is leaning so much towards design and build or one-stop shop service delivery. So we started as architects, pretty much project management, the interior design is within us, urban planning is within us. We've added on an engineering discipline now. Eventually we'll add on a quantity surveying discipline, and we're going to add in the construction component. Again, going back to the issue of vision, what we're trying to do is to position ourselves so that in the future, when FTH wants a 50-story tower, they give me a phone call and they find everybody within one office space. So we're working towards becoming a one-stop shop. And again, we are not stopping there. Like I said, we're going to add more and more disciplines as we discover other professionals who are like-minded. So basically that's the idea and that's the thinking futuristically. As far as sleeping goes, I will not lie to you. I was under the impression that when you run your own business, you sleep more. That is a lie. There is no such thing. When you're running your own business, you're going to sleep less and less, and you probably work harder. In my first employment, my boss was earning a lot of money. In South Africa, my first job in South Africa. I was earning 10,000 rands then. He was earning 200,000. And I was like, yo, this guy, he pays himself too much. Fast forward, I understand why. No, I'm being serious. Because before any of my team members do something, I do it first here. If I don't do it here, nobody will do it in the office. That's why I have to get paid more, because I've already done the work. So when you fast forward again, you also understand that most of the work gets done in your head. And in as far as time is concerned, work-life balance, it's always a juggle. You never find a perfect rhythm, at least in my case. Because even if I'm leaving for a holiday with my wife, we're at the airport. If William phones me and says, dude, that 50 story is ready, you have to come sign the contract, I'll tell my wife, I'm sorry. Let's go back home. Because that is what entrepreneurship is all about. Understanding that opportunities are not going to sit and wait for you. You have to go seize them. So yes, you sleep when you die. When they say rest in peace, they will not lie. You rest then.
Right, I've got 3 more questions to take from the audience. There's a hand up. Our microphones.
Hello. My question was specifically on something that you said toward the end on learning the trade. How best could you recommend going about that? Is that through some form of mentorship or some form of employment before you can actually make a decision on whether or not you're going to actually push the entrepreneur route?
All right. Thanks. Again, I'll keep referring back to William. He said something in the light of creating something that outlives you. I'm always saddened by the trend in the practice of architecture where when the principal partner dies, the firm dies with that individual. Yeah. We have no sense of continuity, no sense of longevity. We think we'll live forever, and that's the wrong way of doing things. So yes, learning the trade, there has to be a mentorship program, yeah, within the firm. So for example, I'll give you an example of our context at Pakwathu. So we've got a gentleman by the name of Alan Chipungu. He's a partner in training. What that means is before I die, I would have already identified somebody who is going to take Pakwathu into the future. And annually, we have a team building occasion where I chat with the team and I tell them what the ideas in my head are so that when I die, somebody will understand what I thought would be possible. For example, Pakwathu going into Mozambique, Pakwathu going into Zambia is an aspiration. But what I've told them is I started in South Africa, expanded to Malawi. Right now we are practicing in Malawi and South Africa. Zambia is not my business. Mozambique is not my business. Namibia is not my business. It's for somebody else to carry on the mantle and take it into the future. So I'm circling back. What you need, and that's why I said learn the correct stuff to learn, because you could also be getting the wrong mentorship. In other words, don't go and get a mediocre architect to be your mentor, because what you're going to learn is mediocrity. But also as a youngster, you're wise enough to know that whatever he is or he or she is telling me is something that is sustainable, or I'm basically wasting my time. Yeah. One of the best lessons I learned is when I studied for my professional exam for me to become a registered architect in South Africa. The manuscript that gives you how to sit for the exam says that you may not be employed in an architectural firm to get the 24 months training for you to write your professional exam. However, the onus is on the candidate to get the right experience. So what do you do if you're smart? If you're not formally employed, you volunteer. You can have your private jobs, but then you can volunteer under an architect to say, look, let's structure a deal. I'll do my own work, I'll pay for my own bills, but can you mentor me for me to get structured? That's learning the trade. So get creative, don't get complacent. Because you sitting back and saying there are not enough jobs, or as you said, the politicians will create jobs for us. That's not going to happen. You have to be proactive. You have to identify the pockets where you can fit. The onus is on you. Let me stop there. Thank you.
All right, ladies, do you have any questions? No questions from any female?
I think immediately didn't know what it accommoded as my house.
Okay, can we get the chair for the guest of honor so that he joins us on stage? When George was asking the question on money management, it reminded me of the saying, "Akuta Malawi ndrama ikathawa, nzeru zimabwera." Ndrama ikathawa, nzeru zimabwera. Ndrama chikangobwera, ati zimathawa ndi nzeru. No way zinthu zizukhala modzi. Is that true? Do you agree? Okay, join me in welcoming on stage the Group CEO for FTH Holdings, Mr. William Mpinganjira. Before I actually comment with the questions that I had lined up for you, I guess I'll give you a chance to also take your part in responding to the question that George posed on money management. Can we get another mic?
Yeah, I think I'll respond while we're waiting for the other mic. I think managing money is one of the most difficult skills, I would say, one has to do, because there's so much that is attracting the money. So if you cannot separate what is your money and what is the business, what are the business funds, then you're in serious trouble. So when I say, for example, that you can tell Google that I don't need help at this point in time. Yeah, when we talk about use account yomweo, what I don't mean is most people when we start a business, we'll actually open a business account. It's not like you use your personal account with William Mpinganjira, I'm using the account. No, we'll go register a business, maybe so entrepreneurship, and we'll open that business account. Komano, business account ija kumakhano chipwirikiti. Cha business ija, everything just goes in there, in and out, in and out. Then even your personal expenses akupanga sojani within the same. So that's where the challenge is. So you still need to separate within the business. What is your revenue? What are your expenses? Because one of the things that you need to understand is, and this is where, and Hambili, you've mentioned that there were business people, business gurus, whose businesses don't exist today, is not understanding how much it actually costs you to run that business. When you have that confusion, then the business is doomed for failure because you just spend and spend and spend. So you need to have discipline about it. Accountability is important. Accountability, get an accountant. We know akazingokuuzani kuti bwana apapa ndrama mnapanga nayo chani. Ndrama mnapanga nayo chani. Azikukumbusa because you spend in the heat of the moment. Then at the end of the month you are looking, okay, ndipange produce my accounts. Okay, what did you do with this? There's this expenditure, what does it mean? Get someone who can hold you accountable. So having someone in accounting, it doesn't have someone to be someone expensive. Just Muntoti understands numbers. A bookkeeper just helping you to manage these things is important. Otherwise, if you do it yourself, you're not going to ask yourself those questions. You will justify that's how it's supposed to be. So it's important to hold yourself accountable, to have someone to hold you accountable within the business. Then that's not going to be very helpful. So be ready to have difficult conversations amongst yourselves about the business, and that's how you continue to build that discipline. Thank you.
All right, how many have businesses here on campus? Not big ones, amandasi maswiti timaona runkalasi mabwera ndi mandowa enake samusa akuti kumuza mesho kuti uzitha ndi londolozera kuti kodi kandrama kandapanga nayo chani napanga ka 10 pini ndakayuza bwanji komanso umasiyanisa pocket money yakudeni ndi ndrama imeneyo. Now let's get to the questions that I'm sure everybody in the room, those following us online, would have loved to ask you if they met you. And the very first one is, we all know you grew up in one of the Malawi's business family, one of the biggest business families in Malawi. It's not a crime as many people want to make it look at. Right. But I'm just interested to say, how did that shape you now into being a leader? Because you're no longer a manager, you're a leader now. How did that alone shape you? Because in my imagination, maybe that can weaken you, right? See, it's like there's everything and all that, but now how did that shape you into being a leader? And most importantly, I mean, going through your academic qualification, how did that even push you, spending all that time leading Erumango Shara, and how you got Okay, so I'm interested, I'm sure many people are also interested to know that.
Yeah, and I think that's a very, very important question. And this is why it's important. When we run a business, when we want to succeed, we want to do it so that the next generation, should not go through the same struggles that we did. If you are running a business, no funa mwana wako azavutike kumwamba sukaloa. So it's not fashionable to be saying here nakula movutika. You are doing a disservice to the people who invested in you. So we should stop this talk of trying to make it look as if Kuti you struggled when there were people who helped you to get to where you were. I think that's very, very important. I was walking this side when you know, guys, please don't. Now, getting to the issue of why is it important? There was a question one of the guys asked about mentorship. I think this is one of the most critical things that when you grow up in a family like I grew up, you are constantly being mentored about business, about things, and you're being pushed a lot to do certain things. So you get direction. So I'll give you an example. When I was applying for university, kuti ndikapanga degree yanje, I wanted to do economics because I was very good at economics. I think when I was in secondary school, high school, the lowest mark I got for economics, nearly 85%. It was either 90. So to me, that was the easiest thing. That's what I want to do because I'm very good at it. When it came to the point, Joguti, Tipangeno apply. Bambangan mangan, feel like what ufuna banga yan and funa banga economics. Oh, nde imenu uzande and damazingad. Now, this is an important question. If you are Pakwathu and you want to come back to Malawi, you need to have a skill that adds value here, that exists here, that you can create and grow here, okay? Now, I'm not saying economics is a bad idea. Economics is actually a good profession to be in, by the way. But to them, and not Banji Mubanga accounting, they had thought this through. They had actually identified even some of the universities that I should look at. That's one of the benefits that you get from being in a business, a family that is business oriented. They have a vision. They already know what they want to achieve, and they are already looking at how the rest of you can plug those gaps and feed into it. So they will direct you and mentor you towards that. The other thing is the network, the social capital. That was also mentioned here. It's important. Your social capital, the network. You ride on your successful parents' network and social capital. You already have the name, okay? And that is what you're trying to do as an entrepreneur now. Mugamamba business, you are building your name. Your son, your daughter, your cousin, whoever, will not have to go through the same process that you went through to build your name because you've already built that name, that brand. They'll just ride on it. And that's what you're trying to do. And that's what you're aiming for. And do not be shy about it. Do not pretend, do not degrade those who've laid the groundwork for you to do what you've done. Can you imagine muntu akamamvera mukamakhala ma TV ma interview muja munena amene mavutikira when they know kuda ndinavutika ndineyo for you to get there. Mukwapasa ulemu. Mkhalidwe umene wa Malawi, it's not nice. Let's respect the ones who help us to grow, who omama dithandiza tifike pomwe tilipo. Thank you.
All right, a hand. Yeah. Somehow related to my earlier question, what's more challenging when you're actually working in a very big leadership role like yours, but also it happens to be a family business? What is more challenging about that?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge with working in a family business is to move away from the mentality of the family and just looking at it as a business. So it can be very challenging because in a normal business, for example, for most of you here, the VC, you do not have access to her. It will be very difficult to access the. But if the VC's child was working here, kunoko they can pretend this. All right? What does that do? You have a challenge where now you need to earn the respect because everyone knows this. So you obviously have to earn the respect of the people that you're working with, that you have the talent that can add value to the organization. That's number one. Number two, even as a family business, you need to understand that for that business to grow, the family influence will have to wane over time. Because it's very simple. Your family can never have enough talent to grow the business. Ena makhala kuti akhoza uthandiza ambiri, they are useless. But everyone has an opinion. It's like in politics. If you're a politician, or maybe, okay, for like now, I run a football club. Okay? When I go to the stadium, Ekaya Football Club ikaluza. A supporter amakhawa makuza maina kulowesa. Do they know anything about tactics? No. Do they know about anything about player conditioning? No. That's how a family business is. Akumuza jamani nadu kwadi simma mulemba ntchito ojafuwa jani. Muzwada amatajakuti. These are some of the things you need to balance with the family business, and you need to move away from that mentality. And that's what I would say has helped FTH shift. Because even by going public, by going IPO, what has that done? It has reduced the family influence. You now are accountable a lot of people, a lot of investors, and that helps the business to grow. And that's how you should think. Start as a family business, but now you have to progress to a corporate entity where the family doesn't matter anymore. This business was started by Dr. Mpinganjira. He's no longer there, and it's still growing. I'm running the business, yes, but I can tell you that the talent that we have at FTH, if I'm not there tomorrow, the business will continue to grow. Because we have de-risked ourselves from being a family business to now just being a corporate entity that has good governance, a good vision, a good plan, can attract talent. And attracting talent is deliberate, it's not by chance. We have a lot of programs, graduate training programs that we do. We have management programs that we do, sending people to South Africa. Some go to the UK, some go to the US. It's a lot of investment, making sure that you're bringing people up to the required standards that will continue to help the business to grow.
All right, thank you very much, Moses. I was going through the profile of Pakwathu as late as 2 a.m. Francis knows because we were talking at that time. I saw a Yakobe there. There's a Yakobe there, which means I know you should have some relation with him. Now, I want you to share with us now the advantages of sometimes tapping from within your relations, especially when they actually have the skills and knowledge and expertise. As William said, you just because one is your brother or cousin, it doesn't mean they might be qualified for a certain position. But if they do, what are the advantages of actually building an empire with relatives?
All right. I think he's already said that family is controversial, and he's also emphasized a very, very important point. I think when people are successful, they want to claim or attribute their success to themselves as if there is nobody who carried them along. Even and class contributed to my success because the class was clean enough for me to sit in it and to get a proper education. So very important point. I think give him a round of applause for that. Yeah, so the other Yakobe is my brother. He is also a trained architect. He's also a registered professional by the South African Council of the Architectural Profession. So he is not in practice because he is my brother. as the Lord's provision would have it, we ended up with 2 architects in the family. So I think as I'm first in my family as the elder brother, I naturally took it upon myself to nurture him, to help him along his architectural journey, and to give him that competitive advantage that William is referring to, that because I have gone ahead and learned how hard it is, he doesn't have to go through the same things. I'll give you a simple example. It took me a good 10 years, if not 12 years, to get a South African permanent residency. It took my brother 2 months.
Wow.
And he got permanent resident before I got it, simply because I had paid the school fees for him to do better. And he also mentioned something about in Sanje, Sanje, when we feel as if opportunity hii impata kaya nimbalwako kaya ninzako ontaji, timafuna tipondelezane. Because I mean, if you ask anybody who has stayed in South Africa, getting a permanent residence is a game changer because it means it opens up a lot of opportunities. So in the same light, what we forget is amene tikumpatsa cross lero na amene mawa azakugwira nkono, right? So I think where you can foster productive relationships with your family to help them along their professional journey, by all means do that. But again, I emphasize family is controversial, so take that which you can take on board. As he has said, pamakhala bale agodi siningazahambe ntchito kumeneko, koma what they do is olumudalembayo banga clean ndewe nage mofesa wafuso takomara pasiba naere amayanka kuti company yetu ndi akhazeni wanga simunganduze chochita. And again, those are the controversies that you have with family. So if you can do business with family, I think that's first prize because charity begins at home. But if they are an anchor that weighs you down, move on. Let's do business with strangers. Thank you.
All right, now back to William, talking about leadership as one of the youngest, not only CEOs, but group CEOs. Don't you find it tough to lead? And as one of the youngest CEOs, group CEOs, what are some of the challenges that you maybe have encountered? Maybe you're done with them. Maybe you actually have managed to overcome them. But what were some of the very first challenges that you encountered now to lead a big company like FTH Holdings?
Yeah, I think the first challenge is that your age is an issue. So as you say, most of their peers will be of a certain age as a CEO. It's natural. It's the same in every country. I became a CEO before I was 40. And most CEOs of big organizations in Malawi will either be in their either late 40s, early 50s, or in their 60s or thereabouts. So you are not in the same network. So you will not get the same respect. So this is one of the things that it's you have to work hard on. You have to work hard to make sure that you become part of that grouping. You join that group, you gain their respect, because this is where all the business is discussed. So it's very, very important that you earn that respect and you join that group. The second grouping is your peers now. Most of the peers will be behind. So you'll be way ahead, and some of them, the majority of the people that you started with, because this is now your network, will be way behind. So you need to be careful in terms of your level of interaction, because now you're interacting at different levels. So that's something that you need to actively work on. Some will support you, some will not. Some will hold you back. The one thing that you need to be able to do is to let go of your past. So as a young CEO, I had a life. I had a good life. I was enjoying myself. I could go anywhere where I wanted before I became CEO. But as you become the face, you see, Lorraine is here. When I was in CEO, there's no way someone like Lorraine would waste her time following me around, right? But you become a public figure. And when you become a public figure, you have to understand that that's the image. It's not just about you. It's about the brand that you're leading. So whatever you do, you must work towards making sure that it's not just your personal life, your family, but now the brand that you're leading, you must manage it so that you don't bring any controversy. So there's certain things one has to stop. So ngamakha magakha brefant kuchako as I say, yet you have some of my friends will be there. I can't do that. It doesn't make sense. What if I get in a fight with someone? What if I fired someone and they meet me at Blue Elephant? Just avoid certain things. It's very simple. I'm an Adventist, by the way, so I don't go to Play Fund, but it was just an example that I was giving. So there are certain life choices just you have to make to ensure that you stay focused in your job, and certain things that you have to actively work on, which is the network that you must build on, because most of the peers will be of a certain generation of which you are not. So these are some of the challenges that one has to deal with.
All right. Final question before maybe we open the floor to the audience. I'll begin with you, Moses, and then William, you're also going to add into that. We're still talking about leadership. I'm sure there's a lot of young people in the audience online, right in this room, who'd love to be inspired by you two gentlemen who are leaders. Leadership is a skill, and actually it also encompasses several other skills which are learned or some are inborn. But now, what are some of the critical skills that one ought to have to be a good leader?
So I think, as he has said, you need to make a mark for people to respect you. Yeah. I think at a certain point, I was possibly the youngest registered architect in Malawi. Again, it meant there's a generational gap. It's very difficult to relate to the older architects, but you learn to associate and they will learn to identify with you. So in terms of leadership, you do not become a leader if you've not learned how to lead. I think some people say he's a natural born leader. I doubt if ever there's ever such a thing. I think your social context shapes you and frames you for you to become an eventual leader. But at the same time, how you then make the mark counts for everything. Maybe let me share a funny story on a lighter note. So when I was coming to study architecture, I had a friend, Timothy, and he was coming to do his second year in engineering. So I went to him to chat him up. I was like, oh, I'm going to study architecture. You're at Poly. How should I prepare? Although he was in engineering. So he said, no. I've got friends in architecture. They use B pencils. And I said, oh, B pencils. But he said, hey, they're very difficult to find. So see how best you can work around it. So I went around Lilongwe town trying to find the B pencils, and I found them in one shop. And I think they had 20 of them. So because ndine yawo ndi ayawo ndokonda business, ndinagula ose 15 or 20 of them, meaning I cleared the shop, no one will find them. Titabwera kupole atipanga brief on the course requirements, and actually ama B pencils aja ndeti tamaliza class nawo za ma classmates angu akuluakulu ndili nawo ndikugulitsa for argument purposes 1000 each. Ndanandiyankha kuti kudulitsa tikagula kulimbi. Anapita kulimbi sana apeze, anapita ku Blantyre sana apeze, anandipeza ku room. Mapensolo aja alipo nawo zoti alipo ndi 2000. What I'm trying to say is that's one of the first businesses I did kupole kuno, and I will not lie to you. Kuno wona enjoy napanga ndalama. Ndagulisa mapensulo, ndajambula ntuzituzi. Ndiyeso ndiyangane church changa kaere. Ndagulisa zina ndi zina ku social weekend. Napanga tax shop, nthawi imene kunalibe amakupika ku msewu, right? So napanga tax shop, and I think then it was tax-free money because I didn't know even then could MRA. What I'm trying to say is muntu umakandi audit trail. So suma ngodzidzimuka tsiku limodzi nkupeza kuti ndiwe muntu ayamba business. Umayamba pang'ono. So kukakhala trip ya school where everybody was going to enjoy in ndimana opportunity yopanga drama. One scenario we made mapanga kunoko ndinzanga IQ, I think some of you know him. Ali ku NBS pano. Timapita ku basi ngati AXA. ndi nthawi imene kuli aksa timakauza aksa kuti atipatseni basi ifeyo tilodamo ndi ma students ndi amatozo ta ayi mutipasire tundrama anakupoli tinovuta tikopasati matiketi muba. So ine ndayu tinakumana pa tijede tinalibe ndrama zimenezonso ndiye tinagwiza kuti ase zimene tipange tibwereka ndrama kwa wina aliyense amene tikutani tikumudziwa. So we borrowed money from everybody we knew and we had a long list. Ndikukanisa ndrama zimene zimafunika kuti kalipire ku basi kuja. Ndiye tinabwerera kukazo kuti tipaseni matiketi ja ndrama zanu izi. Ndiye bwana marketing anadabwa kuti ndrama mwazitenga kuti nthawi yomwe. Ndiye tinaonesa chilisti chija. Mpaka anaseka ndutuzo tati ndimwe kumayenda CEO athu. Ndidapita kwa CEO uja kuti fusota. Muti ndrama mwazitenga kuti mesa mbate mulibe ndiye tinaonesa list kuti itabwereka kwa ndani kwa azinzathu. Tikagulitsa matiketiwa tikabweza ngongole and we get a profit out of it. Again, I'm just trying to emphasize the point of an audit trail. You just don't randomly wake up one day and think you're an entrepreneur and you can run a business. You build that over time. So zimezi machitika tikatero nthawi imene ndikupanga tuck shop ndikuti tigula matekaways ku tuck shop yanga, chips, sausage, ma drinks, basi bwera pa front papole tiloda ma students tigawa zakudya tipempheretsa basi nyamuka ine ndayi titambalala pa front paja kugawana ma profit. That is how you grow into a leader. Let me stop there.
All right, William, if you were to share insights with the audience, if they came to you and said, what are some of the skills that actually we must polish up for us to excel in various leadership roles? What are some of the things that would actually enlighten them on?
Yeah, I think the first thing is you don't get into something you don't understand. Most of the times we might get excited about a business because it's fashionable, it's popular, but you don't fully understand it. And it's a problem because once you get into it, then you find there will be a lot of struggles. Maybe you've even invited friends, others, because they need their money back. And you can't get it back. So make sure you understand what you're getting into. Secondly, I mentioned this before and we've mentioned this again, look for the gap. See why. So why should I come to you? Why? Keep asking yourself that question, why? Why? What gap are you trying to address? Because chances are there's someone who is better resourced, even if they are not bridging that gap now, they can easily pick it and overtake you and force you out as well. So try and see what gap are you really trying to address when you're getting into these things. And continuous learning. You need to continually look for opportunities. Keep learning. Whatever way that you do things. If you like reading, then read. If you don't like reading, mabanga podcast, radio shows, then do that if it works for you. And YouTube, you watch videos, you streaming, whatever it is that can help you to learn, then do that. Or attend sessions like this. You come here, you listen. It's a way of learning, but the most important thing is keep your mind active. Keep your mind active, and it's one of the ways that you continue to grow. I love education. If you look at my CV, you see kuti ndikumango phunzirabe anthu amanena kuti ndichani kweni. But I truly believe that learning and education, whether it could be formal education or informal, whichever way that you might want to learn, is very, very critical. Then there's the aspect of your financial discipline. Extremely important. Understand, Kuti, maybe you cannot spend this now. Try to delay that. My father likes to call it delayed gratification. Try to delay that gratification because, you buy that car, it's an asset that starts losing value the moment you buy it. Kwa accounting, it might be depreciation if there are accounting students here. 5 years, it might pass 5 years, it might be 5 years, Gamod will become useless. Because Malawi we are a very unique economy. Sometimes because of gula gamut on the profit. But it means a devaluation. So if you are an economist, you actually do the numbers, you find out actually there is no profit. Yeah? the devaluation, the effects of inflation and what have you have degraded that value. So yes, you might get a higher value, but it's not really what the value that could have gotten you the same quality vehicle 4 years ago. So that discipline is important. And your network. Guys, your friends can lead you astray. As in that one, identify as in that order, as in that in our CN. It's important. If you don't have the right people around you, they can really derail you. When you should be working, he's talking about, not sleeping much, kwira ntchito. Anzako azokuza ntiyeni tikacheze, tikasewera uku, tikatani, tipange izi. Even things like just playing golf. Most people will tell you, build your network, go on the golf course. Yes, but go on the golf course, play for an hour, 2 hours, leave. Not 5 hours. Ukutani playing golf 5 hours. Out I'm building my network. Guys, that's not true. So choose your friends wisely. So these are some of the things that I would say would be very helpful as well.
All right, thank you very much. Do you have any questions, burning questions? There's one. Wow. Now the ladies are waiting on Soban. Pagamoz. Okay, let's make it quick. Just get to the point.
All right. You both talked about how starting a service-based business is very hard in terms of scalability and how you continue it if you're not there. So how do you navigate those issues? Let's say, for example, the field of architecture. It's mostly service-based. You have to do something for someone, and then you get paid for it. How do you navigate issues to do with that service-based businesses, and how do you approach scalability so that you should be able to profit and you should be able to keep it as a running engine even if you're not there?
Okay, so when I graduated in South Africa, kunalibe mbale wanga, kunalibe uncle anga, kunalibe auntie anga. I had a skill, but alibe munthu amene angandipange rifa kuti ndi nephew wanga or ndi mwana wanga amapanga zakuti. So my challenge at that point was, I have this skill, wina wake akuifuna, koma it's very difficult for me to bridge the gap. So when you're in a foreign context like South Africa, there's language barrier and all other challenges that you're going to face. My biggest headache was, how do I bridge the gap between me sitting on my desk thinking I need a client to provide a service and that client knowing that I provide a service. So what I did is I went on a marketing campaign, so target marketing. South Africa will be famous of residential estates, so people are maploti ndikumanga within what we can call a compound. Then mabida malonga amene agulitsa maploti wo ndamanga maflyers anga ndimakasiya malo amenewo. Then in one of the states, I met a gentleman, ndamuza bwana ndifuna opportunity kunoko mundipange kurifa kwa client. And like namuzodano 10% market related commission is yours. Nandi angaura anturu amagamba choncho koma ntchito ija kaipeza 10% ja satani sapereka. Then now zoda ineyo ndingofuna client mmodzi. Musandipatse 10 mmodzi. Ingondiyesa ndi mmodzi. Ndandu zoda abwana akutuluka wagula plot ndikupasa nambala yawo. Nanklanda abwana aja. Nayi ndi mantha ndi nzungu. Koyamba ukhala ndi client nzungu. Ntapita kunyumba kwake akundipatsa what we call a design brief. Then now ukhala phena ngasindikuopa, right? Yeyo anatenga kuti I'm a good listener. Okay? Kureko mmene amapereka feedback kwa ajana anatipanga link aja amauzo kuti no, the gentleman is a good listener. Osezoti ndinanitatentheka ndikuopa kuti ndiyambira pati. Then moving on from there, napanga design ijaz nateka nabwerera kwa ajana ndipatsa connection aja. Then napita ndi envelope ya 10% yawo. Ndinafunsa kuti mamwa jana ndizodani mamwa Jack Daniels, nakagula Jack Daniels iso. Then nakapereka 10% kwa zoti abwana munandikhulupirira ntchito ija yateka andilipira. Koma on top of that, because you gave me this opportunity, weekend takamwenezi mukundiganizira. Long story short, I designed 34 houses in that estate. That's pretty much where we started as a firm to grow in the residential market. So I was wise enough to know that sindingapange compete mafema akula ku South Africa ndilibe capital time nalibe galimoto nalibe even office. Client amara akandimbira phone, I had to fake it until I make it, then the mouse would, no, tingokumana pa McDonald's. No, but I can come to your office. Now, don't worry, ndilikale ku McDonald's. Koma sindili ku McDonald's. I'm trying to make sure that I find a presentable place then for them to come find me in my bed sitter, where bed langa lutera aba desk yanga gambira batipo, pamene bobo. So from that point onwards, mapezoti pangono pangono ndikukula, right? And from then I was learning and unlearning. Nabeza client wina in excited and uzota panga design, napanga design, and patse ma drawing, napanga ma drawing anatawa ni ma design. Sina ndiye drama. Then my client wakabwera azindipasira ndalama zanga up front. Then ndinawazoti muzindipasa ko 50%. 50% nayo mundipatsa ndikamaliza. And this is where mentorship comes into play because I had no mentor. If I take somebody on, that was that would don't accept a client's commission, I will pass them to 50% upfront. Because by then you've reduced your risk by 50%. And in Gatsanga kupatse 50%, sa kupatsa 100%. So those are sort of like the motions that you go through. And then kutino tikulet, nangasabo na mbagai small scale. So majority client ameni anga ndipwekere ndo residential. Then dramas jano ndu kusave zikugula then inagula gari moto. Kena kotaza wina contract yacho yamba 1 million rands, napita ko ndika golf. Then tapita umene kujatatuka meeting, one of the client members andu zota wabwera pa golf. Audi yako yafa. Pamene kukwaine golf was my everything, eh? Ndinangoseka. Nangasi you can neither confirm nor deny that, eh? Kena konalimbikira nagula Audi Q5. Then ndikapita meeting amanduzo kodi iyi ndiyo tamangira kunyumba kule Range Rover. Pamene audio is my everything. Okay? But again, we're talking scaling up, right? Pangono. So you manage within your means. And he talked about age. I remember fame to South Africa 21, 22. I was very young. Titabita on our first R1 million contract. Nitafika boardroom, nafusi doda bwana wali kuti. Ne nitapanga realize kuti anthu andakula akulu and they think ntchito isingagwire. I had a very good engineer friend who was much older, Zinlage Israel. Very nice guy, supported us through studying the business, and we were hiring him. We pay him for his time. So tikapita ku boardroom kuja ya mabwera atavala jacket, he looks older. Then mazibanga introduce kuti ne Moses awanda abana anga ndipo sanchiro yopanga present lerolo ndo alisa kusangalala kwa client kuja nanga si age gap yachuluka. Then mamuza Ezra kuti ine ndikamamenya yozingotere. So through that, then nabesoti deal jampaka inatani inateka, right? Then we would fly with him kupita ku Northern Cape kuna iso contract ina ya makhala bwana athu ife umapita ngati because business partner wanga ku South Africa ndi nali age yofanana, right? They paralibe kusiyana roset makauti kuonekana. So Israel would come with us, he would sit there, he would look nice in his jacket. If you bastibanga present, tikamaliza akambanga congratulate Israel. No, your team knows what they're doing. So again, you scaling upwards. Then you find the need now to, again, like I said, Gudiba Makalama challenges, legislative requirements. Now my company Aguzodi fully VAT registered. We can't do business with you. Oh no, you need an office space. So again, cleverly what we did is Nabanga partner my engineers ena. So what I said is, can I be your project manager on your jobs? Ineo mundibase deski, kumaso ndiziuza boardroom yanu. Meaning now I'm becoming certifiable. Oneka kuku. Then I can client in the Mabita like office imeneyo. Dori pali boardroom pamene paja we do meeting. Kena go nazo ita pisanu nchito wa igulu. We have now our own office space. Before you know it, you've got 8 people. Then you've got 16 people. Then month end comes, you're no longer a happy person because you have to pay everyone, you know. I used to remember kumaruga magazine game when I was employed. We look forward to a Thursday. What's on promotion. Since I became an employer, I've never enjoyed month end because I know month end is time to bleed money and you're scratching your head. You're thinking, okay, 1, 2, 3, how do I pay everybody? But in my context, it was about starting a business without capital and slowly building that. So the potential was in realizing that this I can do now, this I can't do. So let me rather work with those that I can afford to provide the service to while keeping my eye on growing the business. Along the years, there were people who came in to say, we want to buy you out, yeah, or we want to buy shares. And I would tell my business partner that, hey, then we must be doing something right. Because if you're attracting somebody's attention and they want to buy you out, especially the white firms, they would come and say, no, we want to buy you out. And I would say, the way I've struggled and sweated to build this company, somebody should just buy me out. Of course, when you look at the bottom line, you're like, however, we haven't sold. Another important story I can share is my first boss, he had a lot of faith in me. He thought I would grow and become a success. The other firm I was working for, they're in 5 countries, and he wanted me to grow within their ranks to become one of the partners in that firm. Then they would usually annually have a directors meeting to Cape Town, and interjoin, I think within 3-4 months, he commended me to the other partners to say, he's one to watch, and he really liked me. Ndezinapezeka kuti mmene majoinamo sindimatha kuyuza akikadi ndalanduza ase uli pa computer pali internet pali YouTube kunoko kulibe nthawi yoti uphunzire program uziphunzira kutani ukugwira ntchito. While I was doing that, pajano palino mentorship paja amandiphunzisaso ntchito, right? There I was patient enough to also sit and learn. In as much as I was burning with that zeal to start my own firm, I also had to learn from someone. And probably the design excellence that most people would point at today, I learned from him. Yeah. So I remember ndayamba firm yanga ija, and I'm sharing this because mwabwera myself. So ntapanga resign nakayamba company yanga ndukani kolipira rent ya 2000 rands. Anazandimbira phone atabwera, I want you to come back. I'll make you head of architecture 5 countries. Go get a brand new Mercedes Benz. I'll give you a house in Santon. Do you play golf? Does your wife play golf? We'll give you golf benefits. You dream job, right? Rent 2000 ndukani kolipira koma company ndufunitsitsa igwire awa undibanga offer dream job zinandivuta, right? But I turned it down, believing in myself. And what I said to myself is, I'll work hard. Whatever he is offering me, I'll offer myself one day. Parakala Antawi anabwera around 2 extra benefits. And again, it was very difficult because you are starting and that's a temptation. And I'm sharing this story because, like I said, it's not that easy, it's not that automatic. Most of you who are going to start business are going to struggle. And when I was a brilliant idea, there will be people who come to buy you out or to derail you. But if you strongly believe you have what it takes, stay the course. Then, yeah, so long story short, whatever benefits he was offering me, today I can offer them to myself. I'm very fulfilled. I'm happy. I think he can attest to the fact that firing people is one of the pleasures you have to take your stress out. But other than that, in this context, it's very difficult for me to say ndigulitsa mashare because ntchito yathu ikufuneka ukhale ndi a certain skill. So it's not just about you going to school and learning architecture. You must have that artistic side of you above and beyond what you learn in class. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I know we have got a lot of questions, but time is not on our side. Being a Friday, and this is about 2:05. So I'll get just one question from a female, one question. One question we need to go to spin and give away. We need some closing remarks from our UniPod. I was about to say iPod, from our UniPod manager. Yeah, so yeah, let's get a question there.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Siri Maunde, and I'm a founder of a small innovation startup. Our first official innovation, I don't know what I can say, but it's called Mpunzi AI. It's an educational gaming application that has AI, machine learning, and natural language processing. So we are currently in the prototype stage. We've managed to come up with a prototype in within 4 weeks, 4 to 5 weeks. I was very adamant to have a prototype first rather than emphasizing the idea, because a lot of people may like the idea, but they want to know what you can do. So we have demonstrated that with the prototype. It's fully functional, but we have a couple of things that we need to work on. But my question, I don't know who it goes to because both of you are proficient in business. But my first question was, what are the key steps to transitioning an innovation like Mpunzi AI from a prototype to a sustainable revenue generating venture?
Well, the both of you, I'm not there. It's a tour group. So she says she doesn't know who it goes to. William, and then maybe Moses will actually just add on to that.
No, thanks. And I think first of all, you're definitely in the right in the right industry, because that's where most of the money is going, or all the money is going, technology. I think the first thing I would say is, yes, the money follows good ideas. If you've got an idea and you can build like a prototype, the money will come. It might not come immediately, but it will come. And now this is the time. If you have an innovation hub, then use the network that you have to start accessing, opening doors. So as a student, or you're probably not a student by looking at your facial expression, but if one is a student, the first network that you can use are your lecturers. They're teaching a lot of people, and most of them are also postgraduates. So they're actually already learning and studying somewhere.
Sorry to cut you. We've recently collaborated with Must. They're the ones that are helping us in Hints. They love the idea. I was very shocked, but Must is the key collaborator we have. So we're hoping during the testing stage, when we deploy, they'll be the first ones to test and to give us the criticism that we need. Sorry to cut you.
No, so that's fantastic, because then I used to sit on the board for Must, so I know how passionate they are about new ideas, innovation. So must be the one to help you to get this to the market, and they will be able to open the doors for you. And once you do that, then you've got a product that pretty much most businesses want, a large language model, which is, in vogue right now, ChatGPT, Claude, whatever. And whichever space that product is playing in, I'm not sure what it is, but use that network to open the doors to now demonstrate your prototype. And that would be one of the first steps that I would say would help you to then get more, whether funding. If you're using MUST, then there's a possibility for getting grants through the MUST university network that they have, the academic network that they have, or maybe even private investors, private funding that might get into that, if that's the case, or even selling it to a business that, okay, we can resolve this issue for you. So if let's say most law firms outside Malawi now are drafting legal contracts using large language model, basically AI. Then you don't have to sit and go through all that. The standard contract, then you put it in the system and it comes up with everything. So look at those areas, look at those gaps, those industries where you can use it and approach them directly. So those are some of the things that I would say you would do.
Thank you.
All right, I guess now I can relieve you of your responsibilities. You're not going home yet, but you can resume your seat. Big round of applause for Mr. William Mpinganjira, as well as Mr. Moses Yakobe. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us. Let me invite Hope Chilunga to come and conduct the spin to win giveaway, and then after that, immediately, Francis, you're going to come to the podium to give us your closing remarks, and then we'll have a group photograph as usual. Could we have some people to assist us with the chairs once again in preparation for the group photograph?
I hope you're all happy now. Spin the wheel and win. Okay, cool. So what we have done, actually, just to brief you, so everyone that is in here, we entered your name in this spin, in this wheel. So we're going to spin it, and then it gets on your name, then you have won. Today, we're giving out 3 t-shirts and then 5 notepads for UniPod. Okay, cool. So let's start the spin. Who is it going to be? Okay, cool. Do we have Lydia in here? Oh, yeah, at the back there. Let's give her a hand. Okay, let's have our next spin. Okay, Aubrey, are you in here? Okay, we have Aubrey and the last one for the t-shirts. Who is it going to be? Same curriculum, different campus. Godfrey. Oh. Okay, now we're going to the notepads. We're going to spin 5 times. Lucy. Lucy Isaac. Oh. All right. Let's have another spin. Okay, Evans Matanda. Oh, okay, you're there. Abudu. Do we have Abudu? Wow, okay, cool. Second. Okay, the last spin. Let's see who takes it home. Obviously, guest of honor and guest speaker sit na game where. Dolin. Oh yeah, we have Dolin there. Okay, thank you so much. So after everything, you'll find me. I should be able to give you your t-shirts and the notepads. Over to you, Bester.
I think this has been quite exciting, isn't it? And I think in terms of implementing what we have learned today, it's not going to start tomorrow. No, it will start today. So what I want you to do now is I want you to look at either your right or your left, your neighbor. Look at that person. Social capital. I think they mentioned about knowing people here. Look at your neighbor. You never know where it starts from. It could start from here. So look at your neighbor, ask their name and what they do. Those two. Just 2 minutes. Zimayamba jonjored. Ena mwina zikufuta soma jezedo yake. You keep trying it to the point that you now master the art of how you get to know people. All right? So I hope this conversation is going to continue even in the time we'll be having some tea here. But before everything, I want you to help me to give a big round of applause to our guests. I think as the HRI had mentioned, it's always difficult to get hold of these people. Even myself, I'm privileged to have met Mr. William Mpinganjira here and Mr. Moses Yakobe face to face, meeting up and talking.
So it's always a privilege to be in a place like this after this meeting. I mean, after this event, you meet them and have a talk with them, get to know what they do, see how they could be able to help you also in your businesses. And most of all, I also want to take this opportunity. I think we always forget to thank our facilitator. I think he has done quite a good job, isn't it? Starting from last month, he has been the one coordinating this facilitation for the fireside chat. It's not easy to do this, guys, and I think he deserves a big round of applause for that. Also, not forgetting my team, the UniPod team here. I think to put up a thing like this is not easy. Yeah, I think there's a lot of coordination that goes through this. You might take them advantage of that, but it's not easy. So let's also give them a big round of applause for the work they've done today. All right. I also would like to thank each one of you for coming to this event. I think, as I always say, I think most of the talk series that we as UniPod, we are here and we have this fancy space, you know, all these machines, computers. We get to decorate this place the way it's looking. But having all these things without you, it won't make any sense, you know that. So you coming here, it adds meaning to us having this space. It even shows us as UniPod to say, indeed, this series is bringing impact, is bringing attraction to you young ones so that you can be able to learn from the experts to be able to coordinate and network with people. So thank you for coming, and I hope that in the coming series you also be joining us to hear more and more of what we'll be offering to you. This series is going to continue. It's not going to end this month. My hope is that it continues up to next month. And it is my plea to call upon support from all partners, companies, individuals to provide support to this new baby. Yeah? I call it new baby, so that it continues to bring impact to all Malawians as well as all businesses that are there. Maybe I just ask my colleague to just yeah, maonet. The other poster was not beautiful as this one, is it? Just see the way these letters are properly put, and this it looks nice. So our hope is that it's a kalise. Yeah, but our hope is that in the coming months, we hope maybe to next year, we need to learn more and more. So our hope is that we'll have more partners in trying to implement this series. A little amount you have, you put in kind, whatever support that you feel it's going to bring change to people. But otherwise, I just wanted to also just share with you some good news, borrowing the same concept that Moses had shared. I like how he was saying when he was trying to meet clients, he had to go to McDonald's, and then in Ramadi, McDonald's, yeah, he would go, yeah. Yeah, but as UniPod, just to share with you, it may not happen maybe this month or next month, but we have this small space that you see here, just opposite where there's the food. That place we call it the business nursery, and that space we would like to be renting it out to newly startups, right? Because we understand as UniPod that people that are doing innovation in this space, sometimes one of the challenges we face is to rent a space. And you know, renting is very expensive these days. To find a space out there to sustain yourselves in paying rent, it's quite a lot of money. Here the fees, the amounts are quite reasonable because we understand that aspect. And adding on that, you can also get the privilege to get mentored, to get mentorship, soft skills. I'm an engineer by profession. If you ask me in terms of how to start a business and stuff like that, I may not be the best one to advise you. But maybe our colleagues here, since they have the experience, we can always invite them to basically kind of give you guidance and mentorship whilst you're being housed in this space. So that's something that I wanted to share with you. In the next few months, hopefully everything will be put online, and you will know when we'll be starting to give this space. It will be a shared office, by the way, similar to Moses. We want to reach as many as we can. Yeah, so reaching that far, I think let me not spend much time. I think I'm kind of like a block between this fellowship that we have just right there. But before that, our guest of honor has some news that he wants to share with us. So maybe I will call him in front to share the news. Thank you.
Thank you. Quickly, when I was giving my speech, my official speech, I mentioned that in Malawi, we have a gap. You know, you've got retail banks, and retail banks do not finance startups, new businesses, entrepreneurs struggle. You heard the struggle that Yakobe went through, and others that will go through. When I have these talks, my biggest fear is someone then will say, "Couldn't they startups?" But thank God we ran out of time because I'm sure we're not but it's tough. So, putting money where is mouth or mouth where there is money. Koma mandimve? Zomuntu ufuna oneni. Myself and some other like-minded individuals and partners, we decided, Kuti, we're going to actually try and start filling this gap, and maybe others will now follow. And what we're going to do is, starting from March next year, we're going to raise funding up to 1 billion kwacha, maybe more. And this funding will all be invested in startups. And Singongole, it's not debt, Singongole, but it's investment. It means you have to give up a stake in your business, because that investor, whoever I convince to come in and put that money, want a return at some date. And if the business grows, they can exit and you continue with the business. So there will be protections, palibe business, ngati bank no. And that's what we're going to do. Details will come later, but that's what we're going to do. We're going to start. We are going to start and we'll continue. And who knows, maybe some of you guys sitting here identified maybe partnerships with UniPod, you never know, will be beneficiary of this. So March next year, keep reading, watching the news so that you'll be one of the beneficiaries. Thank you.
A group CEO dakanati palamulisa ukakondwa kwambiri afandi yambiseti tseke awizi abwera chichisangalalo, right? A big round of applause. Having an idea, having vision is one thing, but having people support you is another altogether. Thank you very much, FDH. Thank you very much, Wana, Group CEO. Right now, let me call a volunteer to come and close with a word of prayer. And then after that, I will ask Lorraine, Mr. Mpinganjira, Mr. Yakobe, UniPod manager, Mr. Chilunga, just to come and sit in front. And then the rest of the audience, we have one big photograph so that we can actually hang it somewhere for the sake of memories. Can I have a volunteer to close with a word of prayer? Avadishe da FDH. Are you from FDH? Zangojitika? Huh? You're from FDH? You're fun your timing.
Let us close our eyes and pray. We thank you, Heavenly Father, that you've been with us from the beginning. We have been taught, we have been mentored about startups and business. We have been given knowledge and wisdom of a lot of things so we ask you from Heavenly Father that all we have been given here, we have to be able to implement it. It doesn't just have to be from waste or have to go in vain or in wind. Heavenly Father, may you bless the ones who organize this event, that we have to be equipped with knowledge that is going to prove, knowledge that we are going to witness someday and testify that it was these people that organized this event. May you bless everyone else who came into this place. May you bless our guest of honors, so that may you give them energy that someday they may be also be able to give us such wonderful mentorship, such wonderful session. Heavenly Father, I pray that may you also continue to bless this institution May you also continue to bless UniPod so that they may be able to organize such event. Through the name of Jesus Christ, I've prayed today and forevermore. Amen.
All right, let's just all line up in here. Can I have a hand? Tingo Santa Bandoyo.